Muhammadumerfarooq biological video. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share. Ask the question for answer and comment about the artwork. So today we will talk about the Chara, that is the charophyta. We will talk about the taxonomic position here. That's the charophyta, division and class Charophyceae, order Charales and family Choraceae, and genus is Chara. So now we will talk about the introduction of the basic introduction here. That the introduction is that the growing submerged in fresh water and upon muddy or sandy bottoms of pools or in limestone streams, basically limestone stream, which that is certain species have the capacity of precipitating calcium carbonate from the water and covering themselves with calcareous layers. So that is also known as stoneworts. So here is basically that is also known as stoneworts, and basically here is the stonewort. That is a macroscopic, because macroscopic mean it is not microscopic, it is macroscopic. Macroscopy mean we can see with our own eyes, so that is why it is known as macroscopy. So here's nodes and internodes are present, which their plant, and the thallus is contain node and internode, and there is the lateral branches, axillary branches are present in the cell in the plant. So here the nodes and internodes are present. Arthrophyta is also known because jointed and node bears whorls of branches of limited growth are present that resemble the leaves of angiosperms plant. So that is why it's also known as the node and internode of primary laterals. Also that is also known as primary laterals, and they're also internode and nodes. So here is the we will talk about the plant body is showing in the here the lateral branches, which that is the another, and that is here we will talk about the here is the basic structure of the tip of the Chara, thallus. So that is known as thallophyte because no shoot, stem and root differentiation. So that is what called thallus. So that plant is also known as thallophytes. So here is the apical cell are present is over here, and here is the basal segment which that is present, the basal segment, and downward is also known as node. So that is here is the node, and that's node to node difference between the node to node distance is also known as internode. So here you can see that's the node to node distance. So that is the precursor of node, which that develop further after the development, after the growth. So that's nodes will be produced, and there is the lateral branches is also known as the primary lateral, which that is the primary laterals also known as, and there is height is 20 to 30 centimeter in length. So here is a lateral of limited growth. There's a lateral limited growing there's a lateral limited growth which that is present, and here's the basal cell, which that cortical cell also known as the cortical cell is here, and there's the internode is present is here. So this is the internode. So here to here, that is the here is limited growth, but here is unlimited growth. So remember it about that, because the lateral branches is obviously limited, and the tip of the Chara, that is the apical primary branch, which that is further growth, that is known as the apical portion of thallus. So that is all is apical portion of the thallus and of the thallophyte algae. That is the thallophyte alga is known as Chara. So that is the basic structure of this. So now we will talk about the thallus growth. So thallus growth is come from the unicellular one cell. That's the apical cell is here, which that is the apical cell, which divide, there's a basal cell which downward division. So the downward division is here is the apical cell, and internodal cell is present is here. We will draw over here, that is the basically here is the node, which that is the apical cells are remain upper side of the plant. So cell division will begin and cell divide downward, descending portion, not ascending portion. So that is why the apical cell remain upper side of the tip of the tip of the thallus. So here the node, which that is node is the central, and here is the internode is present is here. That's the node to node. That's the node is the precursor of the lateral branches. So here is the apical cell of that branch. Apical cell, of branch, that the auxiliary branch will be produced from here. So remember it about that is easy to understand. So here the basal cell are present is over here. That's a basal cell mean their basic stand for the preservation or retention sportive, that is and here is the central cell is also known as well. So here we will talk about the here is the cell arrangement 1 2 3, and other side also same cell is looking here. So here I draw basic the structure of the stem of the basically thallophyte, that is the stack. Internodal cavity is present is here, that is mean internode is contain hollow shape cavity, that's a hollow structure. But in node portion that is not hollow because cells are present, so remember it. So here is the cortical cell, which that is the upper layer is the cortical cell and contain a hollow shape, making a formation of hollow shape, that's the node is here. And here is the descending filament is you can say it's going to descending filament. So because it's going to upward to downward, so that is called descending. If move upward to downward, so here is the joint of filaments, and joints of filament is here is the movement of cell to upward is known as ascending filament. So that's ascending and descending according to the node. So here you can see here. So now we will talk about the basic node, which that is the for example thallophyte contain a node, which that is the node is basically here is the basically internodal cell, which that is the internodal cell which empty, but here is the cortical cell that is present is the upper layer of the here, and here is the nodal cross section, that is the nodal cell is here, and here that is the basically filament which contain a nodal cell contain inside, not hollow but covered by the cell. So that's important things which that I want to share with you. So comment about this tutorial for any mistake or any problem. So now we will talk about the sexual reproduction. Basically this reproduction is vegetative, obviously vegetative and sexual, and asexual is absent. The asexual reproduction is absent, but vegetative and sexual reproduction is due to some reason. So here I will explain about that. We will think about that. The spores is absent. So here is asexual spore is absent, but not sexual spore is. So here the vegetative reproduction, first of all the amylum star will be produced, that is the maturation of amylum star is the very beautiful structure is like that, which contain amylum starch, that is the starch is the type of carbohydrate which that is stored into the amylum starch, and this is the amylum starch is and that's the amylum star is different structure, shape, and their function is same, but structure is different. So that is the structure for the amylum starch. So another if it developed into the mm, node, that is the present in the node, and produce and detachment to produce reproduce again, that's plant. So here is the basically bulbils, that is the bulbils is produced in the, that's the bulbils. These are small rounded or star shaped tuberous bodies that develop either are rhizoids or on stem nodes. So that's develop into the rhizoids or on the stem nodes. There's the nodes which develop these bulbils. That is bulbil is very important, where there's detachment from the plant and grow again the same plant, which that is the daughter plant, come from the parent plant by asexual vegetative reproduction. Sorry, so vegetative reproduction. So here no is the next is structure is the secondary protonema. That's a secondary protonema is structure is like you can see here, which that is the secondary protonema is we can these basically these are the diagram is due to the microscope. It's not a macroscopic, because we can imagine by the microscope. We can use the microscope for analysis because there's a very tiny as compared to thallophyte, their plant body. So here the globule, which that is no, we will talk about the sexual reproduction, is the globule and nucleule. The nucleule and globule is the globule is the male fructification, and nucleule is the female fructification. The fructification meaning the development of the gametes, the development of the basically sexual organ of the plant. So here you can see that the oogonium, which that is present is over here, and here is the corona, which that is the upper part of the oogonium, that is the showing in the figure, and secondary later is present is over here. And here is the basically antheridium, and that is the antheridium is the male gamete, male organ for the production of the antherozoid, for the production of antherozoid. And here the internode of primary lateral, that the internode which that are present is over here. So here the structure of antheridium, we will talk about the structure of antheridium showing in the figure, which that is the cross section of the basically cross section of the male antheridium. So now you can see here the cross section of the male antheridium contain the manubrium, which they are showing in the figure, and the antheridial filament, which they are showing in the figure, and secondary capitulum, which that is the upper part of the secondary capitulum, which that is showing in the figure. Labeling over here is the antheridial filament. Okay, now we will talk about the here is the secondary capitulum. So from the sorry, its labeling is wrong, so I can remove from here. That is here is showing that the secondary capitulum, that is showing in the figure. So here with that I has labeled, but here is that was the wrong. So here is the manubrium, which they are showing in the figure. You can watch it. So another structure of the we will talk about in the B diagram, that is showing in the figure, that is attached with the you can see here the sheath cell is showing in the figure, that is the sheath cell is downward, and here is the manubrium. There's a manubrium attached with the sheath cell, and there's sheath cell and manubrium attached with the antheridial filament. Okay, right? And there's manubrium is basically the holder, the basic holder for the antheridial filament in the male reproductive organ. So that's the antheridial filament will be produced antherozoid, and that's antherozoid go into the female go from the corona that's attached and go into the now we will talk about here. You can watch from here. So here is the structure and development of nucleus. We will talk about the female fructification. Those female fructification is the ogonial. There's the ogonial mother cell, which that's the upper part of the uh, initial stage of the development of nucleus. That is the here is the basal cell and so showing in the figure, and here is the mother cell which that is showing in the figure, which that is upper part is showing, and here is the pedicel cell which that is the attachment cell. Okay, right, and that's we will talk about the B structure is here is the sheath initial and the central cell, which that is showing in the figure, which that's the central cell and initial cell. Now next we will talk about the here is that is the oogonial cell, which that is showing in the figure, which that's the oogonial cell. It is basically upper and central part, and the central cell is also shown in the figure, and there's a peripheral cell is the basal cell, which that is the present, which that is a precursor of the next we will talk about the precursor. So here is the pedicel cell and there's a central cell, and now we will talk about another diagram. You can see there's a pedicel cell and corona development. That's corona development is from here. That is the corona cell, which that is developed into the form of corona, which that is showing in the figure. You can see, you can watch that things. So here is the tube cell, which that is the around surrounded to the oogonial cell. So that's the tube cell is the surrounded cell which that are present of the female fructification is known as nucleus. So that's the stack cell is present in the down of the oogonial cell, and the central cell is present between the stack cell and pedicel cell. So that central cell is attached with the pedicel cell, and pedicel cell and stack cell is known as central cell. So that is why also known as central cell, due to their presence is or existence is just only in the center of the stack cell and pedicel cell. Now we will talk about the another diagram which that is showing the you can watch that diagram is over here. This is the E diagram, because D to E we will move to D to E to F. That's the F is basically showing the complete diagram which that I decide to complete draw. So now here is the basic diagram of the female fructification is known as nucleus. So that is the central cell is present over here, and that is the here is the oogonium. That's the ovum is present, which that is contain a hollow structure, which that is contain a egg. Okay, and that egg is responsible for the fertilization. Well, enter the antherozoid from the antheridium. So that is simple, and here is the tube cell and ovum and stack cell is present, and here the central cell and pedicel cell is showing in the figure. So next this we will talk about the basic fertilization. When antherozoid which that is come from the antheridium, which that is the antheridium, which that is the just below the female organ, which that just below the female organ, which that is the fused by the antheridial filament to enter the antherozoid due to the help of water, and there's the antherozoid go into the into the receptive spot, and that's enter into the ovum, and that's fertilized from the egg to become a zygote, and that's basically so here you can see here that is the male antheridial filament. So this antheridial filament will be produced antherozoid. So that's antherozoid, which that is a secondary capitulum, which that is known as showing in the figure. So okay, by the way, we will talk about the here is that is the protandrous, that is meaning of the male is developed first as compared to the female fructification or female development of the reproductive organ. So that is basically, in this case it is known as hermaphrodite, because both sexes are present in the same plant, so that is known as hermaphrodite or bisexual. So that is it's easy to understand about that things. So here the fertilization we will talk about is enterozyte will enter into the receptive spot to enter into the ovum to fertilize by the chemical producing chemical, that is the ovum produce chemical which that is attract to the enterozyte is known as chemotactic movement, and the chemotactic movement lead to help the fertilization, and there's the fertilization will become a zygote. So here I decide to draw a fertilization sketch. That is the here is a fertilization which that is come from the enterozyte and ovum, that is the egg which that is developed into the nucleus, and the enterozyte is developed into the globule, and there's the globule and nucleus is when the reproduction is occur into the female nucleus, and there's a nucleus, and there's the fructification will be occur is here. So there's the fertilization in going into the making zygote cover thick wall to become a oospore. There's the thick wall to become a oospore, that is further into convert zygospore, fall on the surface and germinate again, and that germination will become again Chara produce, that is known as thallophyte algae, that is the charophyta, that is related to the charophyta. So I hope you make sense about this all tutorial about the plant science. That is the basically next video we will talk about the another type of algae which that is according to our